When you think of JDM vehicles, you probably think of the Nissan Skyline, Toyota Supras, or Mitsubishi GTOs, but today we're looking at something completely different from those cars. This is a four-wheel drive turbo diesel minivan. So yes, the vehicle we were looking at today is a 1991 Mitsubishi Delica Star Wagon 4x4 turbo diesel. That is quite the name, and this car is quite the vehicle. So this thing is basically shaped like a brick, and the turbo diesel engine makes it not very fast. It's also got an automatic transmission, which is, I guess, not really too crazy on something like this. But it's basically a larger version of the key cars. It's not actually a key car, sadly. But the wheelbase is probably still shorter than the first generation Dodge Caravan. As well as this one being four-wheel drive means it's actually extra tall compared to the normal Delica, and it makes it quite an experience to drive around. But before we get to the actual driving part, I want to talk about some of the interesting stuff that you can see on this car. So as I mentioned, this car is a JDM spec car, so it's right-hand drive, obviously. It has kilometers per hour on the speedometer, all of that. It's pretty common by now with a lot of Japanese cars coming over to the US. When you look around the interior, it's a mishmash of English and Japanese. You have Japanese in some places and English in other places. And sometimes that English is broken. In between the two seats, in the very front of the car, in the very front of the center console, you have a box that is labeled Cool Box. And from what I can gather, it is basically a cooler. So you get a cool box with your Mitsubishi Delica. And then, of course, on the front of the car, underneath the yellow fog lights, which you can turn on while having the brights on, I guess you don't really need to worry about that in Japan, there is a little sticker that says Star Wagon. And to the front of that, it says, "These special gear for 4x4 runners." I can kind of see what they're getting at, but for the most part, I'm kind of clueless on what they were trying to actually say with that. It's just funny to look at all this stuff and be like, that isn't correct English, and that isn't correct English, but it's like, it's English writing on a car that was made for the Japanese market. So I'm not sure where or why or how, but it's definitely there. And then some other little factoids about this thing. It actually seats about 7 to 8 people, depending on how many you want to put in the 2 rows of seats behind the front seats. Has rear AC, rear heat, a sunroof, power sunroof. It's basically loaded with every option you could possibly get on these, it seems, except for it doesn't have leather and a few other 90s tech items. But driving it isn't really anything too crazy. It's slow. It takes a while to shift because it's an automatic, and it's also a turbo diesel. And it's very top heavy, that's for sure. If you take a turn too fast with this thing, you'll probably end up flipping on its side. You gotta take the corner slow. But other than that, like, it'll cruise at highway speeds. It's a very nice car to drive. It's just, it wasn't really made for on-road driving as much as it was for off-road, it seems. And of course, everybody that notices that's not like a Chrysler Town and Country or something always looks at it too. So you get a lot of attention in it. And so that was a short little review of the 1991 Mitsubishi Star Wagon Delica 4x4 turbo diesel, too many names. I plan on making a longer in-depth video of like all of the weird stuff and all the Japanese stuff and whatever in the future. And if you want to see that, let me know in the comment section below, because I'll make that happen sooner than later if it is. But for now, thank you all so much for watching. I am out of here. See ya.